Blog Talk Radio.
Carol the Coach. Sex, love, and relationships. We talk about it here.
Carol the Coach. Compassion with contemporary relevance.
I am a psychotherapist. I can be your personal life coach, and I can help you with your issues. There are no problems too small or too big. You can talk about anything.
Speaker, columnist, radio TV host, and commentator. Carol the Coach brings messages of wellness and empowerment within reach of everyday people every day.
Almost 5 years ago, I lost my soulmate in an accident. He was killed in a plane crash. Life just, for me, has seemed to stop.
There are groups all over the city. I teach one. It is a specific way to start thinking so that you shift how you see the world, which then shifts your energy, and then you feel better and you actually see things differently.
Carol the Coach, always available too at carolthecoach.com.
Now I've got Russell on the line.
I'm 47 years old. I'm a truck driver. I'm married. I have a wife in San Francisco.
Okay.
I haven't been home in 6 months. My thing is, I don't know if I have a sex addiction or what the problem is. Why do I want what I can't have? And as soon as I can have it, I don't want it anymore.
You're right on target when you say, I don't know if I have a sexual addiction. Well, guess what? Yes, you do. And you know what? That's my specialty, Russell, so you're at the right place. Continue.
I meet women online, and I'm in a different part of the country. I travel all 48 states, so I love sex.
I hear self-esteem issues. You never felt good enough, and you didn't feel like you were getting what you should have then, and you're reenacting that now. Do you want to change that about yourself?
You get what you need. Oh. And that is the million-dollar question. Does he want to change that about himself? You've heard me say it week after week after week. It's not just about change. It's about having the infrastructure to make your life different. And that's why you're listening to the show. You're trying to figure out what is sexual addiction. You're trying to figure out how do you deal with it. And most importantly, you're trying to figure out how to get healthy. And a lot of times we have experts in the field who can guide us. Hey, I've got to tell you, I'm very excited because on April 20th, we're going to have Dr. Patrick Carnes on. Everybody knows he is the founder of Sexual Addiction. He helped to write SAA. He is the master of his craft, and we can't wait to have the guru in to talk to us about sexual addiction. Sometimes I have people that actually suffer from the illness, and they talk about what they've done to get healthy. And many of you know that I've had different professionals who run different intensive outpatient programs talking about what their program has to offer and how it can customize the treatment program for the specific addiction. You know, because there are 10 types of sexual addiction. It's not just infidelity. It's not just exhibitionism. It's not just voyeurism. It's not just frauderism. There are all sorts of things that contribute to the different types of sexual addiction. And I find specifically that it can be very, very healthy to have clients on, to have listeners on, to share their story. So we've got Joey tonight, and Joey is actually going to talk about an intensive outpatient program that he went through and what he learned from it, how he went that next step to get even healthier, what he finds the struggles to be now that he's back into his regular routine, and what he's doing to contribute to his recovery. So I'm excited to have him on because truly it matters that you want not only to find the proper support, but also to stay away from the triggers that can so easily take you back to the addiction. And Joey's doing an excellent job of that. So we were talking, and I clearly said to him, hey, I would love for you to share with our listening audience what you got out of treatment and what worked for you, what didn't, and what you need to stay in recovery. And he was willing to do that, so we are very pleased to have him on the show tonight. And you know, so much of my practice is about trauma. It's about abuse in the past. It's about living with an alcoholic parent or two parents. It's about neglect. Ken Adams would say it's about enmeshment. You know, there are so many people that are enmeshed with a parent, so they never really individuate and create their own life, and therefore they medicate because they're not happy. And when they're not happy, they figure out what it is that can, you know, certainly make them happy for the moment. But what we know about sexual addiction is that it's auto-exacerbating. And what I mean by that is that, you know, so many of these guys and women, they medicate to feel better. And then do that, they feel worse. So there's a lot of self-loathing. And then that loathing makes them want to act out again. And so they act out again, and there's more self-loathing. And it's auto-exacerbating. The cycle just keeps going over and over and over again. And that's why, let's face it, when you're in good recovery and you have the support you need and you're doing healthy behaviors, you start feeling good about yourself. You start feeling like you have some control. You have what we call hope, strength, and recovery. And when you have that, it feeds a positive self-esteem. And there's just no way to have any kind of addiction and have good self-esteem. So don't even try to fool yourself. If you believe that this is just time limited, that you will feel better in a couple of days, you're not going to, not without recovery. And, you know, I said a couple of days, and that's what I hear from so many addicts. They tell themselves, okay, this is the last time I'm going to do this. I'm not going to contact that prostitute again. I'll do it tonight, but after tonight, it's done. I'm done. It's over. And then, of course, they can't make that happen. And so they say, okay, well, this time is the last time. And they continue to tell themselves secrets as well as they continue to be in denial about what they really need to do. And that's why for some men and women, treatment is the only answer. And I don't just mean counseling. You've heard me say it before. You know, if you have a sexual addiction, go to sexhelp.com and look for a certified sexual addictions therapist, because truly you need somebody who is a specialist in this field. But I got to tell you, I had a man just last week. He came in, and within 15 minutes, I knew there was nothing that he was going to be able to do in treatment that was going to help. He needed to get intensive treatment. I actually wanted him to go into residential treatment center. And, you know, he absolutely said, I can't afford it. I can't take off work. I can't share with my family that that's going on. And I said, you've got to, because if you don't, your life will never be manageable. Well, I sold him Facing the Shadows, the workbook, because I figured he probably would not be able to handle going into intensive treatment. I hooked him up with 2 different programs. He got all the information he needed, and I bet you can predict what happened. He called me that night, and he said, you know what? Cancel all 6 of my appointments. He said, I'm not ready. I don't think I want to do what you're advising me to do. It'd be a waste of time. I'll call you when I need you. Now, what I know to be true is that I probably will get a call from him, because I believe he absolutely knows that I know what he needs, but he's not ready yet. And he probably won't be ready until he has a crisis. You know, he gets arrested, his name's in the paper. You know, even when he was coming to see me, he lived out of town, he said to me, you know, I was thinking about what strip joints were available after I left you, because I don't get to Indianapolis very often. And that's when I knew this man wants help, but his addiction is stronger than his desire to get help. And that's what I really can appreciate about Joey. Joey's going to talk about his bottom line behavior and when he knew that it mattered not what he missed in terms of work. It mattered not how much money he spent on it. He was ready to do the hard work to get healthy. And I know it can be a real investment to spend $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000. But you know what? If your life's unmanageable and you've lost your family and you've lost your job and, you know, your kids aren't talking to you, it's time to get help. Or in this man's case, he really didn't have anybody but himself. And so it was real easy for him to stay in denial. Now, you've heard me. I've interviewed people from the cabin in Thailand who can, you know, if you get over there, the treatment is about $10,000. You know, if you go to the Meadows or Pine Grove, the ranch, you're going to be spending anywhere from $25,000 to $45,000. I know that sounds absolutely exorbitant, but I'm here to tell you that is absolutely what you need when your life is just not getting any better. And I promise you that it is imperative that you sometimes look at getting money out of your 401k. I'm the Kmart kid. That's the last thing that I want to tell you to do. But I absolutely know that money should really be no issue when it comes to failing over and over and over again. Okay, so if you have a question, you can feel free to call me at 646-595-3284. And Joey and I will be happy to answer your questions because he has obviously made it his goal to help you understand his addiction and what he went through to get healthy. That's why he's calling in tonight on the show. So, Joey, welcome to the Sex Help with Carol the Coach show. How are you?
I'm doing quite well. How are you?
I am also doing well, and I so appreciate you being on the show. Now, you know what? I'm going to increase my volume. Hold on one second. Because I know that there we go. I know that I want to hear every word you have to say. So share with me a little bit, and our listening audience, since this is a show about sexual addiction, share with us when you knew that you couldn't turn back, that you had to make your life different, and you were ready to go into an intensive treatment.
Well, for me, that would have been last summer, 2014, where it was really progressive how I just saw, you know, my dreams and my hopes just falling to the wayside to the point where I wasn't even willing to lift a finger to reach out for them. Just no motivation, just content to stay in the same whirlwind of self-deprecation, and I was content with that.
Yeah, but you know, obviously you said there was a lot of self-deprecation. What were some of the behaviors that you were participating in it created that self-loathing and that anger at yourself?
Well, I mean, from early on, is aberrant behaviors. I remember in high school looking up girls' skirts in the hallways or going up the stairwell and just feeling so not right. That's not right doing that, yet I can't look away. Also, as that progressed on through the years, just some of the pornographic websites that I would visit, it's just, why am I looking at this? This is so wrong. This is a human being, and a lot of them were voyeuristic websites where, you know, someone had videotaped women in showers in their homes or in locker rooms where, you know, these women felt they were safe, and I'm looking at these, you know, and it's somewhere where I shouldn't have been, but it was so fascinating. So it was just, you know, I would engage in the behavior, and then I would beat myself up over the behavior, and then to kind of bring myself back out of the pit, I would engage in the behavior again. And so that was really just a cycle of shame that just was unceasing. I would just lie awake at night and think about it. You know, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing.
Well, yeah.
And it's really wrong.
Were you dealing with this totally by yourself, or had you confided in people about your behaviors?
I've always been a very private person, even in things, you know, outside my addiction. I've always just felt like I had to pile the world on my back and just trudge through it. I never trusted anyone. I did confide in my mother to some extent. I don't think she knew the extent of what the behaviors I was engaging in. My therapist, my first therapist, he knew, but he wasn't a certified sex addiction therapist, so I don't know if he knew exactly at that point in time how to help me, but exactly.
Joey, you said that clearly you are a very, very private person, and most sex addicts, be it men or women, are very isolated. Even if they have families, their preference is really to be by themselves, and that helps to fortify sexual addiction itself. We say that they're isolated. So did you find that the more you got involved in your addiction, the more isolated you became?
Yes, absolutely. I created a kind of microcosm for myself. Did not enjoy interacting with people. I did not want to interact with people. In fact, people soon became kind of a burden to me, whether it be I have to wait on people in traffic, I have to wait in line at the store. I became extremely frustrated with these run-of-the-mill situations that everyone has to deal with, and I felt that I was being treated unfairly by having to deal with these things. And so other people just kind of became the bane of my existence. That included my family. Unless I wanted my family for some reason, or I wanted to interact with my family, they became a burden. So it was, you know, all about me.
And usually, one of 6 out of the 7 primary feelings feeds the addiction, and that might be anger, sadness, loneliness, fear, shame, or guilt. Which feeling did you primarily feel as your addiction started to ramp up?
I would say anger. Anger's the one I
If
most
you
clearly
would have
identify
been
with.
able to summarize 3 things that made you the angriest, you just mentioned things like traffic, drivers. But when you looked at your life, what were at least a couple of things that just really fed that sense of anger?
Just the lack of fairness throughout society and what I would project was going on. How my aspirations were falling short, whether or not I was trying or not. I felt that I was not equipped to succeed. And once I started meeting with my therapist and I learned this is why I'm the way I am, and it was because people failed me early on in my life when I needed them most, that is what just kindled the rage, and it was such a powerful rage. And so I felt that it was my right to take something back, and I think that was engaging in this addiction willfully. Part of the reason voyeuristic websites was I felt entitled to be there. And that was a way that I could, I guess, get back at women who I would feel had rejected me, or, some other intense primeval feeling of, loneliness that generated the anger.
Well, and so it sounds like resentment and anger kind of fed that addiction and allowed you to rationalize that it was okay to objectify women or to voyeur women without their knowledge, whether that be on videotape or, like you said, in a stairwell looking up their dresses. I mean, you really felt a sense of entitlement.
I did. Throughout my life, I had kind of manufactured this one-down position when it came to women. They had always seemed above me, better than me, and to objectify them in this way, it's almost like I leveled the playing field. What goes on in my head, no one can stop that. That's mine to control. And so it kind of gave me a sense of satisfaction, a sense of retribution to engage in the behaviors, knowing that these women would probably not approve and be mortified, horrified by it or whatever. That also gave me a sense of satisfaction, retribution. But it's so, I felt like a sub-creature, though. I really did.
Yeah, I can hear the dilemma that you felt entitled to do it, and your anger fed that, and in some ways you got some sense of satisfaction in being able to one-up them by objectifying them or voyeuring them, but at the same time, it also robbed you of your self-esteem, and you didn't like yourself because of it.
No, I did not. Not at all. It was, I became adept at escape. Step out of myself and just kind of withdraw into fantasy. To kind of combat the addiction and just immerse myself in television shows and movies and ritualized sporting events, just to kind of forget. And when sometimes real life would pull me back from those places, then again I would get angry at the fact that, I have to go to work. Go ahead.
So even the mundane, the things that you knew were normal activities that everybody participated in, like work, you became resentful of. You didn't want anything to interrupt your scheduling of your life.
Yeah, that's correct. Work, things that would happen. I think a tree fell over my grandfather's yard, a large tree, and I had to go help him segment that and remove it. And I think I missed a football game, or I had to miss half of a football game, and I was really irritated at the circumstance. And I'm just like, why do I have to miss the football game on my day off? Because I don't have to work today. It's the weekend. I should be able to do whatever I want. And there's that selfishness there. Or when people would schedule things that I had to attend during when there was something else I'd rather be doing, I would get angry with the people. Why do they schedule things and at that time? Why can't they do it, the next day? And then I made up a whole bunch of reasons of why they didn't, and it kind of pushed the selfishness projected that onto those people.
So,
okay, an example of it.
We'll just say that you're in your early 30s, because I know your age, and this sexual addictive behavior, I realize that the compulsivity increases with age. But when would you say you first recognized that these behaviors that you were participating in were becoming compulsive and you actually couldn't stop?
There was a time where it kind of became a running joke with my friends in college. We were kind of fairly candid about it. It was funny. And I said that I could stop at any time. I just needed the proper motivation. And there was, no proper motivation. So I tried to say, I'm going to give it up for Lent. And, Lent is 40 days. And so I think I made it 3 or 4. And then I think, 4 times in the one day. And then it's just like the whole rest of that week. I just kind of said, I moved on from that Lenten commitment because I couldn't handle it. So that's really the first instance I can remember where I had to have this behavior. I couldn't exist without it.
And about what age was that? How many years ago did I ask you that?
That was at about age 20.
So you've actually been struggling with this addiction for 10 or 15 years.
Yeah, about 6. Yeah, let's say. Well, the compulsive masturbation. I can trace this particular addiction and the obsession with sexuality as far back as childhood when I was 8.
Wow, that was early. Now, I know that it wasn't an addiction at that point, but that's when you could trace that you had some compulsive behaviors that you didn't want to stop.
Yes, there was a preoccupation with sexuality, with, the boy bits and girl bits, and obviously at that stage of life I didn't understand anything about it other than, I like seeing women naked. As an 8-year-old boy, I would have that, and I knew that television and movies presented that opportunity, and so I kind of would gravitate towards those activities.
Okay, so then now tell me, said you went to counseling. That was not a certified counselor. He did the best he could to help you with things that he could. And when did you come to the realization that you needed intensive treatment?
I think it was when my counselor decided to undergo the CSAT training module, or the several modules that there were, or that there are, and he met with Dr. Carnes, and he learned of that program, and I kind of got all the material for that program, and I didn't pick them up. It was always going to be next week. It was always going to be tomorrow. It was always going to be one more last rendezvous with my pornography habit, and then we'll start. And so there was about a 3-month period of putting that off, and I was just really getting to a point in my life where I loved and hated the addiction, and I hated life. I hated my job. I hated, my situation. I hated myself. I hated my body. And then I kind of transferred all that hate to other people. So I just thought, maybe if I could get away from everything and really just focus on that, remove all the stimuli, all of the outlets for my rage, for triggering this behavior, and when perhaps I could make a change. And I had also talked to my therapist about how we can close down neural pathways and regrow brain matter, and and move, and that people have recovered, and people who have been, it would seem, in deeper stages of this addiction, in much more dire straits, have made a full, 180 with, over a long period of time. And I could see how this addiction was affecting my life, and my dreams and aspirations were never going to come to fruition or even really have a chance of doing that unless I made a change, unless I found a way to, to get clean and to reharness my life, I guess, so to speak. And so that's when I decided I would go south, literally.
And you went to Pine Grove, which is a stellar community and facility. They're one of the best. And how did you decide, and this isn't a commercial for Pine Grove, but how did you make the decision that Pine Grove was right for you?
Well, I worked with my therapist, and he gave me the list of the places, the different venues that I could choose from. And this one really, Dr. Carnes had been involved with this one. I mean, it was really his program for many years. They seemed either not-for-profit. They, just looking at their material and speaking with them, they were more concerned with getting people better than with making a few bucks, or more than a few. And that's really, the fact that, just seeing how dedicated they were, and then going down there and experiencing it firsthand, it's, there was really no other place for me.
Okay, so you really felt intuitively that, yes, it cost a lot of money, but at the same time, they were really invested in helping people to deal with this illness. So you went down there, and tell our listeners, how many days did you spend in the Pine Grove program?
Well, in the Pine Grove system, I was there about 4 months. The first 60 days I spent dealing with, exclusively with the sexual addiction, and then the rest of the work was spent dealing with other personality quirks that I have, things like obsessive-compulsive disorder and body dysmorphia, ADD, low self-esteem, really helping me get a handle on these things and working toward, alleviating the stress those cause in me, and thus helping to alleviate my need to act out sexually, which was a way of of offsetting some of these other feelings that I had about myself.
And what was the programming like there? I mean, what were you expected to do? I mean, 45 days. Well, no, you said 4 months. That program, doesn't it run 30 to 45 days?
The initial program, the inpatient program, was 45 days, 45 to 60 days based on the diagnosis of the patient.
Right.
Until I was 60, and that's inpatient. That was 24/7 care, working with a number of therapists, a number of specialists, a number of activities, really geared toward building, rebuilding ourselves, so that we could see, we could separate ourselves from the addiction, and move away from that, and recognize it, and recognize why the addiction is playing a part in my life, and how to prevent it from re-entering to dominate my life going forward.
So share a couple of the exercises or the homework that you had to do. You don't have to share about your own responses, but what did they expect of you?
They expect us to be completely forthcoming about everything that we've done in our addiction, in active addiction. To really illustrate how that has progressed, and then understanding where it came from, understanding, this isn't something that I chose. This isn't something that my peers chose. It is just, it was a perfect storm of events, and everyone's story was different. But I get to know myself inside and out so much better than I ever thought I could have before. And it's really, a big part of it is strength in numbers. I mean, we were in there together with a group of guys. They do accept women as well, but there weren't any there while I was there. And really just drawing upon, each other, because each person would bring something different to the table, some different, a different spin on things, and just everyone bouncing ideas off each other. I think that's a big part of the program too, and I still communicate with all of those guys, and they're very instrumental, because, that we can't do this alone, because I've tried. Lord knows I've tried, and it's difficult being a sex addict and solitary in nature, to have to reach out and be vulnerable and surrender to the process. They also got us integrated into the 12 steps.
It's interesting because you said really it was strength in numbers, and I talk so much about the importance of fellowship, and you definitely get that in SA or SAA, any kind of 12-step program. you felt it within that treatment program, and you still talk to those guys because even if their stories were different, you all shared the same common bond, the same guilt, the same anger, the same sadness, rage. It was different, but you all had it. Would you not agree?
Yes, I would agree. That is absolutely correct.
So then, if you can, you were thinking that you would be there how long?
I was thinking that initially I wanted to go in for the 45 days, and I wanted to get back home in time for the football season and just, kind of resume my life as I had been living it before, only with this new recovery. But while I was there, I realized that, it's not as simple as that. And I really needed to stay for as long as I did. There was so much more work that needed to be done. And had I just gone for the 60 days and then come home, I don't think my recovery or my road or my path onto the recovery road would be as strong as it is now. I wouldn't be as dedicated. It would have been easier to just fall right back into what I had been doing before. And that's what's so dangerous about this disease. It is relentless. It will not stop. It will never give up.
So even though you were young, fairly young, I mean, it's not like you were a 55-year-old man, you realized, you knew in your gut that you needed to give it your all. And so you were actually in the first program how many days total?
I was in, I think the total amount of days was 62 because it was on a Friday. In the second program that I entered into within the Pine Grove system, they don't have any programming on weekends, so they don't allow people to enroll. So I had to wait till that following Monday, and so I stayed on through that weekend. So it was 62 days.
And so you actually made the choice to do a second program, did you not?
Yes, I did.
And can you share a little bit about that program and what made you decide I'm going to invest 150% in my life?
It was clear to me that I had some peers who had gone from the program that I was in, the inpatient program, to the outpatient program, and so I had an idea of the types of things they were working on there, and I felt that I could benefit greatly from that. The second program wasn't based solely on a sexual addiction. It was, there were, my peers there suffered from a variety of personality disorders and addictions, and were from varying professions. And so it was run a lot like a work day. And so we would have to live together, and we would have to plan each hour and then get those plans approved so that it was helping us hone time management, which was, for me, was very key because I had never done that. And really learn how to sacrifice and being able to interact with people, 24/7 with people. I guess not 24/7, but it was very, very beneficial to me, and I know I still have many peers from that program that I communicate with as well. And there were females in that program who I have a good relationship with now, and that's something that I have struggled with throughout my life. I don't know if that really answers the question, but...
Yeah, and I would have to say that you're somebody that you're very well educated. You come from a really good family. You're a nice-looking guy. You're very fit. You really had done a nice job with your finances. I mean, from the outside looking in, if somebody didn't know the secret, they would think your life was 100% together. And so for you to take this time out and to invest in yourself therapeutically was a big deal. I mean, who would you say was your number one support when you decided to do this?
I'm sorry, I lost you on part of that question.
Yeah, I said, who do you think was your number one support when you decided to get treatment?
Definitely my parents, my whole family. I have 4 brothers. I have brothers, from my really good friends who I call my brothers. They all just kind of rallied around me, and I knew that I had to, that I had people that were going to really go through this with me and be, my net.
And that is really so important, although some people make these kinds of decisions and they don't have anybody. They're really doing it all by themselves. So thank goodness you did have that kind of support. Now, how do you feel you're doing today? You've invested all that time and money, and what is working for you, and what do you think you need to strengthen?
I'm not going to say it's easy. It's definitely not easy. I really, what I'm doing good, I think, as far as being consistent with this and being resilient with this and not giving up on myself, that's where I'm doing well, understanding that one slip is not losing the war. You fall off the horse, you get right back on. And so I'm doing well with that. I think I need to still work on reaching out to people more, being patient with the process, and not despairing at the fact that, I'm still a man, I still have these feelings, I'm still very lonely, and there's still a lot of anger that is difficult for me to let go of. Still a lot of anger, still a lot of, it comes and it goes. Sometimes I'm optimistic, other times I'm pessimistic. Sometimes I'm happy with the world, other times I'm raging at the world. So I just have to, come to the everlasting understanding that I am enough, I can do this, but I need others. I'm going to always need others. I don't know, it's been a long day. I'm kind of rambling here, I feel.
No, but I think that says it all, that, clearly you've worked really, really hard. Sounds like you have had some slips. And for our listening audience, a slip is when you go back to some sexually addictive behaviors, whether that's masturbation or pornography or chat rooms or voyeurism, whatever. But you don't stay engulfed in that behavior. You very quickly pull yourself out, start using your program again, and as you said it, you get back on the horse. You get back on track right away. And your recovery has really helped you to do that, correct?
Yes. Yes.
And you have a fairly good life in that you've got a respectable job, you're doing some volunteer work that's making a difference, you're able to use a lot of your skills that you had both in your high school career, your college career. I mean, you're really trying to give back.
Yes, I am. If I could spare anyone, being afflicted by this disease, I would. It's no fun. But, when I look at it, I'm almost happy it happened to me and not somebody else, because I wouldn't wish this on anyone.
So then you're not worried about your siblings. You're not thinking, oh, my gosh, they probably suffer from this too.
No, I'm not worried about my siblings. I think they're all doing very well, better than I am in many respects, but I'm happy to shoulder the burden so they don't have to. If something I did that prevented it, I'm happy, and take the fall, I'm happy to do that.
And so as you think about your situation, obviously you've got a certified sexual addictions therapist, and you are giving back, and the 12th step of the 12-step program says that you volunteer or you do whatever you can to give back, whether that's within the sexual addiction community or outside of the community. Do you attend church?
I do.
Okay, so you're going to church and working really hard in that respect. Is there anything on your radar that you're going to continue to do or that you want to do that you're not doing now?
I don't know. Some of the green circle behaviors are all I can really think of. I do want to, I guess if I could get more involved with the 12-step community. I do go to meetings, but there's so much more there. There's more individual step studies with smaller groups of peers. Really go through the 12 steps. I think I'm stuck on the second and third one there. Mm-hmm. It's really difficult for me to give up control because of my issues with trust, and that issues with trust extend all the way to the top, to the God of my choosing. Still, part of me doesn't trust him. Doesn't trust him that he's going to, give me a better life than I could give myself. It's a ludicrous idea, but that he couldn't. But there's still that obstinacy that I possess that is just, it's getting in my way still. So, I'm going to continue to work through that. I have a good sponsor.
Just being ready to say, I assume that you feel free to let people know that you have a very good sponsor. He has how many years recovery?
I believe he has 27 years recovery.
And I got to say, that is so important for anybody who wants real recovery. They have to find somebody that has great recovery, because if they don't, what ends up happening is they don't get the best assistance, the best advice possible. So it's really, really important that if you are struggling with your sexual addiction out there, that you find somebody in a 12-step program that has a lot of sobriety, a lot of recovery, so they can help you. So, Ben, as we end the show, Joseph Benjamin, I'm wondering if you can share with our listening audience the number one thing you want them to know if they have this addiction, whether they're still trying to decide if they have it, or they actually are in recovery and they're having some trouble, with their own recovery.
You're not alone.
Okay.
There are people out there that understand, that can identify, who will absolutely refuse to judge you, no matter what you've done. Some of the darkest, most horrible things, and it was the addiction. It was not that person. And so
when you're in a recovery program, you are able to compartmentalize that and understand that people may have participated in terrible, shameful situations. That was their behavior. That was their addiction. That was not them.
Yes, I cannot stress that enough, because I think, the toxic shame that I feel, the toxic shame that this disease just feeds, is it can be something where, that would easily prevent a person from wanting to reach out for help, saying, I am too far gone, I am beyond help. Nobody, if they hear what I've done, nobody would come near me, outcast, unclean. And that's not
Joey,
the case.
thank you
with this
so much
fellowship.
for sharing again that hope, strength, and recovery. And we will continue to have a lot of gratitude for what you shared with us tonight. And you just keep working, because it's obviously working. It hasn't been perfect, but you really have done a great job of improving your life, really one day at a time. So thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, you have a great night and continued success.
All right, thank you. You do the same.
All right, thank you. Talk to you later.
Okay, bye.
So as you can tell, he really has been working hard on himself. That intensive treatment, that hospitalization, the investment he made in himself is what pulled him out of the darkness. And I know it's a lot of money, it's a lot of time invested, but I cannot emphasize enough how important it is. If you're not making the headway that you need to in your own therapy, and you've been to several counselors, and you think it's you, so don't give up. Try something new. It's worth the investment. And there's some great, great treatment centers out there. You've heard me interview many people who have been able to talk about their programming. So as I at the end of every show, there will only be one of you at all times. Fearlessly have the courage to be yourself. And if you have a story to tell, you can email me at carolthecoach@AOL.com. Go to my website, Sex Help, Carol the Coach, and feel free to email me questions that you have, and I'll be happy to address them on the air. I really care about you and your recovery, so let's make that happen together. I'll talk to you next week.